Yeah, I guess. What a lovely day!
Welcome, Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching. Then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Arwin, Refracted Curvature, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Gilded, formerly Discord. How you all doing?
Glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
Outstanding. How are you?
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here. On the one hand, we've got a new server and have had for a little while now, actually, but it's unfamiliar to people, so we're not overly crowded where we used to have 30-odd people constantly not saying anything in the Discord server. Now, we've got 3 or 4 people that are keen and actually say hello, which is nice. I'd rather have 2 or 3 people, 3 or 4 people, in the Gilded server that are chit-chatty with us than a whole bunch of people that just want to, I don't know, not become a member and not have to pay for the after show early. In any event, any evidence for physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth, and hello to 10th Man.
Good morning. And no evidence of that, or else we would be able to measure Earth as a sphere.
Well, it's formally known as Earth curve to us, but to the rest of the world, it's still Earth curve.
It's Earth curve because of...
It's not the right Earth curve, though.
It's only Earth curve because of indoctrination when you were young.
That's correct.
So then when we say, show us the measurement, they can't. The measure's flat.
Well, I'm being told that there's a bulge between me and the ships at the ocean.
Yeah, that's what they formerly called Earth curve, the horizon. The horizon is not Earth curve. There is no hill between you and that boat. Only a limitation to your angle to the boat. Now that differential between the deck and your depression angle is what you have had reified into the curve by the mathematics. That's where you get the curve derivation from. You can increase your distance out as the horizon falls away from you, and that differential is the differential between the horizontal plane that you're standing on and the line of sight at 90 degrees. But there is no Earth curve, there's no hill.
Well, that's good. I've never seen a hill of water, so that's good to hear.
Well, hills don't move. Black Swan. If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to the horizon, that's the hill, could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That's what they give you in the Earth curve mathematics to say where that hill will be and how it will block things in the distance. And the Black Swan, the distance to the horizon is beyond those physical geometric limitations of a sphere Earth radius 3959. Therefore, the horizon is not a hill. Earth as a sphere debunked. There is no Earth curve.
It's a good thing. Well, it's a good thing that it's not Earth curve, else you wouldn't be able to build a globe model.
What model? And speaking of that, on that globe that they say we're standing on, Are there any rivers that go up the globe? You know what I'm trying to say? How does that happen?
It doesn't. Rivers always flow downhill. Relative to the plane, you've got to have relief for a river to flow at all. That means going downhill.
So
This
it's
is
an
a-
impossibility then.
No, I mean, they have a workaround in terms of how they describe it within the model, not actually going uphill.
That's
Right.
bullshit.
Okay, I'm just saying there, I've got an explanation for it. I'm not going to go into it. It's not my argument to defend, but by the same token, there is an explanation for why they say, even though geographically speaking on a sphere, they've got a description from point A to point B. You're only ever at point B because it's only relative to your position. But that I'm not going to get into. I'm not going to defend this unless someone turns up here and gilded and says, actually, no, you're wrong. Our sphere model doesn't have rivers going uphill. And here's why. So we all can listen to them beg the question rather than me do it for them. I'm not going to rattle off that explanation. I don't want anyone else to either. I will read out a few super chats though, because hooray for super chats. First out the gate, Sensual Goat. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. He says, the Ruining My Day episode was excellent. Thanks to all who participated. Does the panel have anything to say regarding Flatzoid versus McMeal debate? Thanks. McMeal? I don't know what McMeal is. Godzilla37, thank you very much also for the super chat. He says, but no super chats. Can this one be heavier than the blue one? No, but super chats can. This one is heavier than the blue one. Someone else normally is decoding what Godzilla means contextually because I don't follow Godzilla, but I really appreciate the super chats. Thank you both, Sensual Goat and Godzilla.
Oh, that's probably a reference to the little weird discussion, or basically some trolls that got in my chat today and started asking me about science, like, oh, what's the color? Like, what weight is the color blue? I think he's referring to that. Very niche.
I don't know, it smells fishy
Shout
to
out
me
to
though.
Godzilla.
Can I get John Rafackovic to comment on the two tangent points?
What two tangent points? What now? Tangent
Good
points?
morning, fellas.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, good morning, Chocolate. Yeah, exactly. So the hill in the way, and then of course, you're in celestial navigation. You bring your eyeballs to the surface of the sea where you're at, but then they have a tangent to the horizon, the hill in the way. So how can you have two?
We haven't got
Right in
either.
the slope.
Sorry, John. He did ask you. My bad.
I was just going to say they have a claimed tangent point at their feet in the celestial sphere model where they put the dingleberry, and then they have where they cut the top off a sphere and claim the horizon is the tangent point. So, yeah, that's not how straight lines work. Their claim is it's illogical at best.
Moving on, any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No, NASA documents state that the Earth is motionless.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No, it's an angular measurement. As Brian's logic has said, if you got 45-degree angle to the sun and you got 45-degree angle to a star that they say is further away, which one is it?
Is that rhetorical?
So you got to measure a flat Earth first.
Go ahead, John. Sorry.
Reference frame's ruined.
Yeah, I was about to say you got to measure a flat Earth before you can assert a distance in heliocentrism, I guess.
What, in order to acquire the R value to a certain axis?
Well, first you have to measure the angle before you can assert any of that.
Yeah, you're going to need a flat plane for that. Speaking of which, any evidence of the R value, that's Earth radius.
I think Chocolate's raising his hand.
Yeah, it's just
No
a
reason.
pocket hand raise. Go ahead, Chocolate. Or hello, Chocolate, I should say.
Oh shit, my bad. Yeah, that was a pocket hand raise. Yeah. What was the question?
It's just saying hello. We were just saying hello. Hello, Chocolate.
Hey, good morning, fellas. How's everybody?
You're a bit quiet, but other than that, everything's great.
Hey, chocolate.
Yo, yo.
Haven't we at best debunked the radius?
At best.
Right.
Poor Mr. Sensible.
Yeah, they were
Came out.
only slightly off. I mean, that's not consequential at all. I mean, it doesn't mean that the entire universe is going to be warping around them and all that, but you know, it's just slightly off. What's the problem?
Just a bit outside.
Well, I find that
Well-
they like to have a vaguely sized ball.
A vaguely.
If the
Hold on, say that again, Creation Bear.
Yeah. I mean, like if you scooped up 10 different ball earthers and asked them how big is it, they just believe in some vaguely sized big ass globe. Like they don't really know if it even has an R value. So when you take that away from them, they're like, "Well, it doesn't matter. It's just vaguely big."
Yeah, but it's absolutely fundamental to the model in general. It's got to have a fixed
That's right.
R value. That's why we ask for it, because it's in every bit of mathematics.
Yeah, but when they were indoctrinating us, they just wanted us to believe we live on the ball. And then when you get hyper specific and ask questions about the radius and the limitations that it would give you, that's where it falls apart. So when you go to a normie or even a baller and say, hey, if your radius is off, everything is off, and they'd lie to you. They just start arguing with you or don't understand it. They don't understand the implications of the radius being off.
Exactly.
Actually,
what do I need a
if
radius?
somebody has any type of spatial recognition and that type of intellect where they can even think about it, really, because there's a guy I told the radius was 3959 miles, and he stopped me dead in my tracks. I was like, wait a minute, what? He's like, what do you mean it's 3959 miles? Let me look that up. And he looks it up. He's like, what? Wait. So the radius of the Earth is only like 4,000 miles? That doesn't make any damn sense. That seems really, really small for what we're supposed to be on.
Yeah.
So I had
It
him
is.
reeling with that one. Before I even got to the argument, I was just like, all right, I'll just leave you with that. And I'll come back later with the rest of the argument.
I love it.
Wait a
was hilarious.
second.
What he's
Wait a
saying
second.
is,
We're
it's just,
told it's way too big or way too small?
it's
I
just
don't
throwing
get it.
out heliocentric facts, Neil. Sometimes, to your average Joe normie, most people haven't given the slightest consideration. Most people aren't like me. I'll only use me as an example. So, I grew up being fascinated with space, and right up until I discovered Flat Earth, I was subscribed to science at NASA and would go to sleep being disappointed by the NASA garbage. So, with an interest in it, you kind of understand and explain away in your own mind the very small ball that Earth is. They've wrapped it up very tiny. And when further to that understanding being relinquished, you get someone like Brian explaining, well, what you're actually looking at in terms of the radial value, the outside edge, the equatorial value, is just a circle of equal elevation from Polaris, and you've got to have that as your sort of fixed maximum, because it will all fit around the heavens. That's how you're calculating it. So now, obviously, in their story, they're like, oh, you can't see Polaris beyond the equator because it's a ball. You're like, no, that's the back calculation of how Polaris will drop in your view as you back away from it on a flat plane, measuring angles to it, right? So their ball is very small. Now, back to the point that Chocolate's making, which is that when you point that out to somebody who hasn't really given it much thought, they go, hang on a minute, that's tiny. You go, yeah, it is, isn't it? It's really small. They've wrapped up the known worlds, now I use that terminology quite intentionally, to be underneath and wrapped around this tiny little ball, this tiny little preposterously small sphere. When you point that out to a normie, they go, what? That's tiny. I haven't got to travel very far to be standing sideways then. No, you haven't. No, it's quite ludicrous, isn't it? Yeah.
What I'm saying
Exactly.
is they tell you that, but then on the other hand, they'll tell you Earth is so big that you would expect to feel movement, things like that. But then on the other hand, it's so tiny. Like, get your story straight. Is it so big or is it so tiny?
Well, there's an
The story is usually
Whatever's
it's
cooking,
so big, right? That's usually the excuse for everything. Oh, it's so big that we can't see this and that, and or we can't feel the movement of this or that. But the realization to him of how small it actually is, because the guy was in the military, so he had some experience on the water and traveling, many miles. So when I told him, yeah, it's just 4,000 miles about, and he was his head might as well have exploded. Like it was that. He really thought about it. Like, wait a minute. So then just across the earth is 8,000. That he was like, nah, I can't do it.
Ah,
Sometimes,
Hold on one sec. Just Bill, did
Sometime-
you want to add something? If not, can you pop yourself on mute?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about physical assumption bias with the sun. If sunlight is physical, like photon, and why would it be a bias to assume that the sunlight is or the sun's light, therefore the sun is physical?
Who's making that assumption?
I am.
You're asking me
Right
why
now.
you would assume the sun is physical.
Well, I'm asking if the sunlight is physical,
Yeah,
then would
absolutely.
so the sun is physical.
Well done.
no.
It's a reasonable assumption, right? I'm not going to say that's totally no. That's a reasonable assumption to make, but it is an assumption yet to be validated or verified. So, no, I don't know. It isn't physical. If you want it phrased in that way, yeah.
Fair enough.
But can you prove that it is? Other than by inference based on the physical nature of the light that we do interact with in a physical way.
All it seems I could do is say I don't know.
Yeah, that's what we
No,
would
but
say.
you-
But
hold
hold on,
on,
before
there's
Arwin,
something you can
hold
do.
on, before Arwin tarnishes this. That is the best answer you can give because you don't. Go on, Arwin.
What do you mean tarnish? No, this is partially my fault. He literally invoked a word I brought onto the scene. Okay, so there is something you could do to find any kind of confirmation, and that is doing an Icarus test. Get closer, study the angular size, study the heat increase that should be there if it is an object in Euclidean space, radiating heat like an object. It can definitely be tested. It's not impossible to test that about the sun.
Okay, Terret 3006 says, could the panel discuss longest rivers? Amazon 6992 kilometers, Nile 6650 kilometers, Yangtze 6300 kilometers, and more, how they observably are on a flat Earth. Thanks.
obviously,
Yeah, we did.
obviously.
They've got to have relief. They've got to be flowing downhill in terms of how the world operates. Draw out an elevation profile in Google Earth and look how the world is operating, and then look where the rivers sit on that flat plane. They're all, without exception, going to have relief. That means going down from up to down to be flowing. So they can only work on a flat plane. Now they can only be described to be working with excuses, which I won't give here, in regards to how it's not really flowing uphill, it's only relative to your position. Well, a river isn't only relative to your position, is it? Yeah? So, unfortunately for them and their explanations for how their gravitational fields work relative to you at the top of a ball, that doesn't really help them when it comes to rivers. But rivers are perfectly easily explained when you look at an elevation profile on a map. They flow downhill on a plane. That's what they do. You can measure the
Right,
relief
but-
to see how much. That's it. Easy.
But they don't like the ballers don't, and myself in the past included, don't really try to figure out the physical mechanics of how that's supposed to sit on a ball and then level changing its angle at every spot, right? They don't really think about it because in the end it's always going to be that flat plane of reality wrapping it around the ball, and it should work. And that's as far as you should go, because actually trying to make the physics work on a ball in a serious simulation is just totally
Impossible?
pointless.
Well, it won't. How are you
Yeah.
going to use a fourth dimensional geodesic space-time bending to explain why on a spherical surface a river appears to be going uphill by very literal depiction? How can you do that? You can't. It's a nonsense. is what it is. But we're not living on a sphere. I mean, these nonsenses that may have explanations that are designed to baffle you with bullshit when you hear them don't actually add up, especially when you consider that gravity, which is the explanation for all, and the reason you've kept Newtonian around for the last 107 years, when it's out of date and replaced by by Einsteinian fourth dimensional space-time, is because they need a force to hold stuff to the bottom of a ball when you're standing at the top of it. If you've got a force bringing stuff, mass attracting mass to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, suddenly the rivers can flow from one position to another, with them all having a downward vector pulling them to the centre. Because then it's all relative to that position at that time, because they're all relative to the centre of an Earth with gravity. There you go, I've had to explain it anyway. But how does that fit in with a bending geodesics in space-time, when gravity is not a force? Well, it doesn't.
Yeah,
That's the
you're
answer.
making it too complicated now.
No, it's not
But
too
I just
complicated.
want-
That's why they've got two contradictory ideas, three-dimensional and fourth-dimensional, non-compliant in terms of their geometry, versions of gravity simultaneously in existence, one taught to kids, so they can wrap their heads around being on a ball, with a force holding them to the bottom of it if they're in Australia, versus you, antipode to them here in England. Well, that's how you get explained to you when you're a kid. But as you go further up the education hierarchy, you realise that it's not actually a force. You might be able to think of it as a force, but actually it's a bending geodesic space-time. Different geometry altogether. Conceptual only. Mathematical only. And bending a time dimension. Well, you can't bend time, you can't dilate time. The whole notion of gravity and space, and therefore rivers flowing uphill when you use geodesics in space-time to try and explain it away, fails on its arse.
But it basically takes away any tangibility that Newtonian gravity still had. I mean, Newtonian gravity is kind of a basic mathematical thinking-based type formula. It's very easy to apply. Doesn't mean it's all true, but it's very easy for
I
use.
love it. You sound like George Musa. Look, let's just nip this in the bud. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No, there's no
Wait a
such
sec.
thing, either one, Newtonian or Einsteinian.
Wait a second. I bet what's his name can explain it. Danny Faulkner. He said when you get into higher education, that's when everything makes sense, and that's where you learn all these secrets, right?
Well, we need
Tony
a
Marshall.
medium. We need a medium for gravitational waves and for light to perturbate in.
Hey, Neil, that's what the priest said to the parishioners. We'll tell you what the Bible says.
Got it.
I'm pretty sure it was the E-cores in my new chip that were causing voice meter to flash. So in some of the forums, they were saying that even if you get a really strong 8P cores, it doesn't necessarily mean the efficiency cores are going to be strong. It varies, you know, so you might have weak E cores and strong P cores and vice versa. So given that I've just tuned the E cores, I'm pretty sure that that's what caused it. So the end all-core speed for my E cores is 3700.
So you found that after I said that thing about the priest, it was a good transition to that point?
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Well, the high
Negative.
priest,
Your calculus speed. Your calculus speed is only possible because science created computers.
the high priest said that the E-cores are moving faster because of space-time.
Lower. Efficiency cores. They run at 3700. They can run at 3900. What they come out of the box at, I think, for 1 to 4 cores is 3900, and then it's 3700 for 5 to 8. Well, I've just lowered all of them to 37 because they don't seem to be as strong as my P cores, which are the important cores because they're the ones that do the heavy lifting. But there we go.
Are you saying your computer has a core?
It's got two chips. One's a big, beefy set of cores, 8 of them, that take up 90% of the chip's surface. And then on a little teeny bit at the bottom, they've got another 8 cores that are small. And the idea is that you run a powerful piece of software, like a game, on the P cores. And then you run your other software, like OBS, like Banana, what else have I got running? My 2 YouTube monitors, the shortcuts tabs, what else have I got? VLC, this thing that you've got with Neil deGrasse Tyson running on G+, Gilded, Skype. All of those things can run on the efficiency cores because that chip is stronger than my old chip, and it's a tiny little after chip, you know, it's the bottom of the pile in that regard. But it runs not quite as fast as my old chip, but can easily run all of that software. But then again, you've still got to concern yourself with tuning that, which is what I've been doing this morning after updates when it became unstable after the updates. But there we go. I'm just thinking about it, verbalizing it. I shouldn't really do it in a live show, but you know what the hell? People want to know this
Well,
stuff. A very small percentage of people, but yeah.
It's a good transition to, is there any evidence of molten iron core?
Is there any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
I wouldn't want to use P waves and S waves.
Cores? P cores? Oh, P waves and S waves. Oh, no, they need a flat Earth for that.
I wanted to ask about that, John, because that kind of, I understood it a little bit, but when you explained it yesterday, I kind of got it. So it can't be on a curve, in other words, to get the return signal if you're doing that, right?
You can't measure the angle of the return signal without a flat baseline, right?
It's over.
Well, Nathan, there's no evidence because apparently there's a new hidden world discovered in Earth's inner core.
Says who? What's this referencing?
I saw that movie.
Live
A
Science.
whole new world?
This is from Live Science. And in USA Today, scientists discover Earth's inner core isn't solid or liquid, it's super ionic.
I see.
How
So
did they do that?
Are they suggesting that there's life in this quote unquote world? Man, there might be more to this than meets the eye. So they're hinting at what we talked about literally yesterday when I was talking about going to the bottom of the ocean and seeing the really heavy, dense saline layer that they couldn't penetrate. Well, this is akin to the same thing. I've seen various different nature programs about extremophiles that live almost in like lava-like liquid at the bottom of the ocean, where there's like literally volcanic stuff spewing out of the bottom of the ocean bed, and there's life in it. So I can kind of vaguely follow along with what you're saying, Creation
It's
Bear.
methane and sulfur-based life, very unique bacterial flora.
Sure,
and all that.
but that's the lines that this article sounds like it's hinting along, which is to say that right in the middle of the molten iron core that we're not actually proving by saying this nonsense, we're just assuming it and then describing life akin to the life that you can find in the form of extremophiles.
They just ran some different simulations with different P waves and different S waves. Wada bing, bada boom.
You need
The
a
Earth
flat
sound-
plate.
Simulations, so they didn't actually test it. It was, what were their parameters? What did they base that on?
Wait a
It's
minute,
probably the
Arwin. I
old
thought they
simulation.
did test it. I thought they did test it, and the results came back opposite.
I don't know. We're talking at cross purposes. We're talking about the life they're claiming lives in the molten iron core. Because this started off with the world at the centre, and immediately my mind goes to Hollow Earth nonsense. And then you go, okay, well then they're talking about sort of life within the soup of the centre of the world, again, that we're presupposing. Now we're talking about return signals on a flat plane. That would be the angles you get if you measure the P wave and S wave. That's primary and secondary return signals from a flat plane. You need an angle to get those. So it's a flat Earth proof as opposed to a proof that we've got a molten iron core. But those are two separate subjects. So who's going to take the reins here?
Let me clarify, Nathan. By new hidden world, I think the first sentence of the article is, the core of the Earth isn't a boring blob of iron after all. So it's not, I don't think they're hinting at life. They're just saying that what you thought was a molten iron core is actually something else. We had a different simulation and we got some other stuff. So
I see. So the molten iron core that we put in the housekeeping question, that might get rephrased because the current notion of heliocentric nonsense gets memory hold. In the same way, there's probably been many explanations gone by that I can't reference here and now. Maybe someone can help me out. In regards to the moon, I always reference the current nonsense, which is one of multiple stories I might add that's current, because it's obviously only what we think it might be. We can't look back in time to see how the moon was formed, but most likely it was Theia smashing into it, a glancing blow, leaving us with a bigger molten iron core, and the moon formed from its debris, because bending geodesics in space-time reverse entropy. That's the story.
Nathan, wasn't there an issue with the iron being molten and its attraction, impossibilities, magnetism?
We call it self-perpetuating because it's beyond the Curie point, so it wouldn't develop any magnetic fields based on what they say it is in the temperatures that they say and the pressures that they say, it wouldn't be molten. It wouldn't be magnetic, my bad. So no, that's why we say it'd have to be self-perpetuating. It's got to have a sort of dynamo effect where it'd be rotating itself at a rate to generate the magnetic field that is the only way you can induce a magnetic field in something beyond the Curie point.
No, don't fret. We're still waiting on Paul Voigt to come back with his presentation on how that works for us. So any moment now.
Yeah, in the same way we're 99% done with the explanation for why we can see the Isle of Man when lying on our stomach, or to be more accurate, when Anthony Riley lay on his stomach at some bees and saw it 34 miles away.
Yeah, I'm sure Rumpus is working he's all over that.
Wasn't that more of a gut feeling from Anthony?
Good
Very
one.
good.
Is that the same time where you were hiding the perfect globe proof, or is that a different time?
No, same time, same lighthouse.
I just don't think the ballers could stomach that finding.
Has anybody ever?
We will get
came
those
out with the
images, by the
perfect
way.
globe
So I was
proof?
thinking about that the other day. Loads of people have started modifying their cameras, their P900s and P1000s. And it's just a matter of time before someone has the inclination to go, I want to see the lighthouse on the rocks flashing in infrared so I can see the outline of the shore and the lighthouse itself and the light on top of it flashing. But as opposed to a black screen with 1 pixel flashing, which is what we got. Hence me saying, don't present that. They'll just claim it's the perfect globe proof. Ah, he said perfect globe proof. He's hiding it. He's hiding it. He knows it's a fucking globe. Yeah, okay, whatever. No, not at all. So I may as well tell the full story. So when we took that footage, having gone outside and seen the lighthouse and go, wow, look, you can see it. It's over there. You can literally see it flashing. Wow, amazing. Right, at dusk. Get the camera out, you take the footage, come back in, and then you study it and go, oh, it's just a black screen. The only bit that's recognisable as being what we saw was when we spun the camera around to see where we were standing. Then you could just about make out, because it was dusk, our shadows and bits of the coast that we were physically stood on. But as soon as you spun the camera around to the lighthouse, 31 miles away or whatever it was, 33, 34, I forget the actual distance, but beyond 30 miles, all you get in the camera's view is a flashing pixel. That's it. So when we were then discussing whether or not Anthony, of course, wanted to publish it immediately from where we were, from some bees, via the crappy internet there, and I'm like, no, this is just rubbish. And then I argued, devil's advocate style, for the ball and how they could spin it. Main point being, well, there's not enough to show where's the horizon, where's the sea, where's the sky, where's anything. It's just black and a pixel. They'll just say it's proof of a globe. That was my argument or angle for dissuading Anthony from publishing it. So then when we got into the wrangle dangle and Anthony wanted to bring it up, he's telling me behind the scenes, I want to show this footage on this debate right now. I've got what I said I was going to get. I think it was I can't remember the name of the guy, but he went by Miles Davis. I don't know obviously his real name, but that guy was asking Anthony to go and get that specifically, the lighthouse from the beach, or from the car park, I think it was. And that's what we got. And he wanted to present it and show it. And it's like, no. In Skype, in the back office, as we now would call it in Skype, same sort of thing, back office is us talking in Skype. And I said, nah, they'll just claim it's perfect globe proof. And Cat, I can't remember what his name was reading it, because it was on the screen share. Anthony, like a complete idiot, screen shared his own screen with our conversation on Skype, and he just screen capped it, took it and presented it and said, look, Nathan knows there's a perfect globe proof. He's saying this lighthouse is the globe proof. It's like, no, contextually, I argued for the globe at St. Bees when I'm dissuading somebody from presenting a single flashing pixel as a flat earth proof, in spite of the fact that if you have trust in Anthony when he's publishing this stuff and believe him in terms of what he says that little flashing pixel is, then yeah, it's a great flat earth proof. But alas, it still to this day hasn't been published. Not to my knowledge,
Well,
anyway.
you know, Nathan, with a names like Miles Davis, he's just blowing his own trumpet.
Indeed.
The funny
it was
thing is,
technically Miles the Liar Davis. So
That's what he got renamed.
Yeah, I mean, the real Miles Davis is a pretty badass musician, or was.
The
That was at a
funny
time
thing
when
is, they
we were
still
constantly
say
being
it till
accused of-
this day.
That was at a time when we were constantly being accused of cherry picking. People like Miles were going out with 3 cameras and taking really high quality pictures, but not presenting any of them. And you're like, why is this picture we're studying from your handycam, little snapshotter that you held when you had 3 tripods, all set up with really high quality? Where's the footage from them? It's because they were just cherry picking the ones that matched their argument and then presenting them. And they're literally going out for ages to try and find the right kind of image to cherry pick. Now, Anthony, by contrast, was just waiting to see the Isle of Man. When it came into view, he took pictures of it, as opposed to lining up particular parts with different focal lengths, making sure you get the right one that you need, studying them after the fact, and in spite of presumably getting hundreds of images, one is what the single cherry-picked image would be what we ended up arguing about from their side. And meanwhile, we'd be accused of cherry-picking left, right and centre. Just pure projection. I mean, I can say it easily now, but looking back on it, you don't know that it's pure projection, because obviously you've just got the image and that's it, and that's what you're studying, and you can't lay claims that they've had hundreds but haven't presented them. But then as time goes by and you're literally encountering these people as they're taking the images, you know, in some instances, the people we were up against, we encountered them. Anthony went and bought one of the guys breakfast. It was quite amusing. But anyway, those were the days.
Could someone clear my memory on this? Back then, did any of these guys tell us how we wouldn't expect to see the geometric horizon?
No, that's
Couldn't
why.
see it, can't
Right.
see it.
That's why I laugh so much at Rufy. Right, Rufy? Yeah, well, you were there, weren't you? Telling us all about how Earth curve got in the way. Was it refracted? No, my friend. How about that geometric horizon you don't have anymore? The one that was blocking the Isle of Man? Yeah? Yeah, how quickly they forget. Of course, they're not around anymore. Oh, of course, that's my mute button, isn't it? Oh, my bad. It's purely down to the fact that I shut them up when they rumpus the show. Yeah, right, okay. No, it's more the fact that they've relinquished their own claim in Earth curve, the one that they had blocking boats and buildings at the Isle of Man.
Is that using the Earth curve calculator where all this takes place below surface level?
That's correct. Using the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator with the flat Earth surface level marked with a line and the sphere Earth falling away from it as a dingleberry. That's right.
Oh dear.
Did anybody, until recently, with obviously us pointing it out from elevation angle arguments linking back to the Earth curve calculator, did anybody ever dream that we'd be pointing out the fact that there is a flat plane in the Earth curve maths it's required, and that actually the Earth curve maths is dingleberry? It's a dingleberry Earth.
Yeah, I kind of did. I did imagine that. I just didn't know how we would figure it out yet. But we did.
Okay, Captain Hindsight.
We also didn't realize at the time that Rumpus eventually in the future would end up telling us that the geometric horizon only exists in the math. Weird how they were going out looking for math in their telescopes and cameras. That's weird.
Chocolate. Did you ever imagine Zanuck coming on and saying that, yeah, we first measured the Earth flat?
No. Then I should have known when he told us that, you know, the second law of thermodynamics is not entropy.
I've got that trimmed out.
Yeah.
That Zanuck clip, that claim where he's like, yeah, we're going to need a flat plane first. Obviously, we're going to be measuring it flat first. I've got those trimmed out, and they go in as a preamble or whatever they call it. I've forgotten the word they use. Trailer for the premiering streams. So I just stick that in occasionally. Zanuck saying, yeah, we're going to need a flat plane to do this. And then it comes up with the question that John is putting in as a housekeeping question and has been of late. If he's there.
Oh, if Earth is a sphere and is navigated as a sphere, why would you need to apply a transformative equation known as the Haber sign to it?
Why would you have to turn your measured flat Earth angles into a sphere by way of Haber sign if you're already navigating a sphere? If the Earth's a sphere, you wouldn't have to convert it to a sphere.
Well, the same is true from the opposite of what I said
Maybe.
earlier. If Earth, I'm sorry.
Right,
All right. Well, the opposite is true as well. If Earth is a sphere, why did NASA documents say that it's motionless and flat.
Because it's motionless and flat.
Yeah, I mean, it comes from both sides. They have to admit to it. So NASA says everything we do is over a motionless and flat Earth, and all the other space companies, McDonnell Douglas, Mark Marietta, all of them say that. We saw the documents, and now you've got this thing that John is saying. It's like no matter which way you look at it, it's flat.
Well, the Habersign formula is actually where the magic happens, isn't it?
It is.
There's points on an
Maybe,
arc.
maybe that formula just turns it into like a super sphere. You know, it's already a sphere. It just becomes like a more powerful sphere. I don't know.
But John's point is, why is it necessary to apply a formula that converts to spherical if you're on a sphere?
You wouldn't. Simple as that.
Is there any evidence
Well,
of
it doesn't
distance
make
to
any
the sun? Oh, go on, whoever that was.
No, that was me. I was going to say it doesn't make any sense anyway because you know it's one of those magician's trick. Where is the angle for celestial navigation and the nautical almanac say it originates from?
I can give a Baldwin
From a
answer.
flat baseline.
From the equatorial plane, right? The disk, the flat disk, cut the Earth in half. It's right there. When they say you bring your eye to the level of the water when you're a navigator with a sextant, they also say it's as if you were at the center of the Earth with your eyeball. It's the same thing. So that's why you got your tangent plane under Dingleberry to match the equatorial plane. So since the angle measurement and all the nautical almanac readings and tables are from a flat plane, so you got your zenith, and then you've got 0, which is the equator. There's your 90. So when they say Habersign formula, we got to somehow put 2 points, the star and the observer, on an arc. So let's just do a little magic with Habersign. And then voila, we're on the arc of the protractor.
Speaking of which, any evidence of the distance to the sun?
3 AU.
What is the sun for 2000, Nathan?
I don't know.
That would be the correct answer, though.
It's a little cloudy, so it's behind.
Yeah, but to be fair,
It's in the sky, but it's behind the clouds. You know, currently for me.
yeah, but the clouds have a Euclidean position, you know. But one thing you can say with certainty, even within the appearances of it all, and that is that the rainbow will always seem to appear closer than the sun.
Shout out to Godzilla37 who says Super Saiyan sphere.
Awesome.
When you see the high altitude balloon picture, you see the hot spot. That's GP of the sun or the Earth at that particular hour, moment, second.
Is there any evidence that you
Yeah.
can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
Geodesics.
Well, if you can get,
One of you go.
I was just going to say, if you can get past using the flat plane, I can show you how it's a sphere after that.
You just got to get over that flat plane, but that was Proto-Thad, wasn't it? You just got to get over that flat plane. You got to get, what was it, Zanuck?
Getting hung up on details.
Don't get hung up
Hung
on
up.
that flat plane that we need to use. Don't get hung up on that detail. Just don't get hung up on it, right? The fact that we're measuring
Don't
a
go
flat
Dingle
plane.
That was
Mary on
Zanuck.
us now.
It was Zanuck, wasn't it?
Yeah, Proto-Thad was the one that said you got to get past this flat plane.
You got to get past that. That's right. You just got to get past the fact that we're measuring it flat. I love the elevation angle. Why wasn't the... It's just a question of timing, isn't it? If that had come 5 years ago, the elevation angle argument, if it had come first, could you imagine pummeling every one of them when there was 10 of them in here at a time? As opposed to the other way around, where they hardly ever make an appearance now. But when they do,
Well, John,
It had to happen in levels, man. We had to have these guys arguing how things were disappearing, with feet and inches back in the day, to that turning into how we wouldn't even expect to see the thing that was blocking those things in the distance later on, for then that to turn into, oh yeah, we just need a flat plane.
Right.
It's the evolution of the arguments that's great about it. I get what you mean, Nathan. Like, we could have just nipped it in the bud real quick and fast, easy peasy. But I think it's funnier the progression that's happened. I think it's
Yeah,
more,
and-
it makes it more worth it.
And then it ended up in locally flat. I think that locally flat was an attempt to answer the elevation angle question.
Disco ball or
can I ask?
Well, no,
can I-
but it's not even disco. You just don't think about it. It's locally flat, but when you think about it, it's a ball.
Can I ask John, refractive curvature, was his kitchen locally flat before he turned it into a sphere?
Oh yeah, of course it has to be flat. But after it's flat, then you can measure it or change it into a sphere.
see, but that's what
Exactly.
I'm talking about. It's the progression, right? Because back when we first started, they never said it was locally flat. They never left their lips. They never said that. All of a sudden, after a while, when they were realizing they were stuck between a rock and a hard place, all of a sudden, yeah, it's flat, but just right here, just locally.
You know, Chocolate,
Great.
you and Arwen have been here longer than I. The arguments from our side of the camp just get refined, but they don't change the nature of it. The arguments from their side changes when they
Right,
come
it's
to
like a
defend
wild
it.
growth, like a vine constantly crawling, and you have to keep cutting it off, but it'll come back. Do the same thing again.
I
Just
like
like
that
vines.
analogy. That's good. It's like a vine. Yeah, because they're like parasitical in their nature, aren't they? They're like creep on things. You cut them back, and they just keep coming back and crawling and growing new ones. And you dig them up by the roots, and then you come back the next year, and there's still another vine. You just can't get rid of the damn things.
Does that make us
Exactly.
the weed killers?
Yeah,
Nah, don't do that. That'll ruin the ground.
yeah, it does. Anyway, any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
No. And to do any type of demonstration, in order to attempt to prove anything relating to that, you're going to require a container that you make in order to demonstrate
Nah, you're
something.
just getting hung up on details, bro. Just
Good
I'll concede how you require gas pressure. You require a container for gas pressure, and then I'll tell you how we don't need a container
Right,
for
we
gas pressure.
just need to move
like
past the
Bitcoin guy.
container. We just need to move past the container part.
Gradient.
A gas pressure gradient still needs gas pressure. It needs to press on something regardless, whether it's gradiated or dynamic.
Details.
But these two layers don't have a container.
Yeah, and if I release a gas into anything, at some stage you're going to see a quantity of gas that's disproportionate wherever you've released that gas. So picture a gas leak. Do you need there to be a container between the gas pumping into your room if one of the pipes bursts? No. You can have a difference in pressure of one gas over there, but eventually it's going to fill the available volume and kill you. Eventually, or explode. But obviously, over time, entropy takes hold and it disperses to fill the volume.
Not only that, but didn't they do some kind of a test where the top of a container was cold and the bottom was heated, and they formed a gradient?
Yeah, you still need a container, regardless. In all of these examples, a container is always going to be required. You can't have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon. Ergo, the notion that the sky is a vacuum is a lie. It's a defiance of the second law of thermodynamics. You can't have an empty available volume for the gas we breathe, which is at high pressure, to not fill. That's a defiance of entropy law.
That's only when you want to do cool stuff like make videos and name it, gas pressure without a container. Then in the video have containers with gas pressure. Don't get too hung up on those details.
Was
Don't worry
that Hillbilly Blue Balls where he had that 20-foot pipe and at the top was left open and he said, "See," and then it's like, "Well, give it time. You've
No.
got it really tight. It's going to go out. Give it time."
Yeah, and then ask for a citation that an open tube is an open container. A tube is a container.
The pipe's a container.
Like,
Quick shout out, if you remember, check out the latest video that I've released. So, in error, because I was doing loads of computer testing, I was streaming to test the computer's capabilities when it's under load, i.e. when it's streaming and recording. So I was streaming to unlisted videos. So they were going out live, doing all the things that it has to do at this end for the computer to be stressed. But it meant that they were going out and then becoming unlisted after the fact. Well, unfortunately, that's what I did with yesterday's live show. So as much as people are giving me praise for how great the show was yesterday, it immediately vanished from YouTube the moment it was finished, which is unfortunate. So I only figured that out this morning. Hopefully this won't be the case with this live show when it ends in 10 minutes. Hopefully it'll still be available and won't only end up having 500 views. But that's just the way it goes. If you are testing stuff, you occasionally make mistakes. That was a mistake. Anyway, what I have done to sort of negate that, because it was a good show and there was various parts that I might trim out, one of them was a section where Adam went through various details in terms of the 100-degree boiling point qualification in mathematical terms, which isn't what we're dealing with in the question of whether or not science proves things. But it was a useful tool, along with an explanation from me, which I've trimmed out and in a video currently members only, but will be released to the public at the weekend, called Natural Science for Dummies. And it's got Jaren's smiling face, as he's pretty much the reason for the example. Thank you very much indeed to you, Jaren. Big shout out. So yeah, we're using Jaren's obvious and unreasonable red herring away from cause and effect relationships being proven with science onto the mathematical quantification of an amount once the cause is being applied. That would be heat in terms of boiling water, in our dumbed down attempt to explain how the scientific methodology is applied when you establish the cause of a natural phenomena, in this case boiling water. Anyway, it's turned into a useful tool, so check it out if you're a member. It's available now. It's called Natural Science for Dummies. And if you're not a member, don't fear, you can still have it. Over the weekend, it'll be released probably on Saturday.
Those books that they sell, it says mathematics for dummies or whatever. They have other things for dummies. That's what you got to get. You got to get a picture of that book with Jaren's face on it.
You want a picture of Jaren's face like the book Mathematics for
We don't need
Dummies
to,
with
we
Jaren's
don't need
face
to
on
do
it.
that. Just
Yeah.
use this. Just
You
use the
do
original.
that, Neil.
Neil, you don't need to do
Yeah.
that. Oh gosh. If you've already got a live image that he broadcast and he said those things, that's more powerful.
A bit like the one that I've made that's on screen now.
I do have a request that when we're attacking someone's argument, that we don't try to tie that person directly to the argument so that they can concede more easily.
Let me get this straight. You're not going to believe this. In that bit, it is specifically you that tied my unattached to anybody example to it. Now, admittedly, it's only that because of the way I've edited it, but you are, without any break in the edit, the reason it's tied to Jaren. Now, prior to that and at the beginning, so you can see this is true in this edited down, without any edits in between, I might add, this just the chunk, right? Unedited, if you will. At the beginning, you got Adam explaining how it's a red herring from Jaren to even question the 100 degrees because it's still 100 degrees, and the article he referenced even said it. That is still enough for you to get that context. But as a direct result of you, it's ironic that you're saying that because it's you that contextually ties that video to him, justifying why I can put him in the thumbnail. So there you go.
Yes,
made him like
I
fight or die
I concede that I have done that, and I've been asked by a very lady to stop doing that. I don't.
You lost for words. I know it.
understand
I know it. You
reasoning.
lost for words. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I don't understand the reasoning behind it,
Your point isn't any less valid to
but
me.
she's right. Then, yeah.
Your point isn't any less valid. Yes,
it was more of a.
It's more. Your point's still valid. You're saying don't tie it to an individual. Keep the point concise and make it the point rather than about who else has got it wrong, or how they've got it wrong, or them as an individual. I assume that's your point.
Yes, just stick to the argument. I think she's trying to strive for peace.
Who's she?
Betty.
Betty's trying to strive for peace between who and
Yeah, I
who?
don't like it one bit. I got very annoyed yesterday and left the show.
Who
It's not that she's striving
on.
for peace.
peace?
It's
What
that she
peace?
doesn't agree
What
with
war?
the name calling.
I don't follow. What peace? What war? Betty wants peace between who and who?
She wants this topic to be discussed civilly, and I can't disagree with that, but it does seem like we're being asked to bind our hands while we're being wailed on a little bit. And I understand her point that, you know, that to lower yourself to what the other side or the person attacking you is doing. So I really can't argue with her.
Right.
I just
let's,
don't.
n-
Well, there's
Hold on one second. Let me
let's
get
not
this
go,
in.
let's not get dragged in with them. Basically, that's
Hold on.
that's what I
Betty
said
has a-
over the weekend.
Betty has a sentimental weakness for Jaren because it was Jaren that brought her to Flat Earth. So that's what's going on there. But
No,
we
it
don't
wasn't
stop the
Jaren.
caller.
No. It wasn't Jaren. It was the information Jaren shared. I
Tell her that.
remember. Okay, please. I remember when Bob didn't listen to Nathan's explanation of the scientific method, which caused me to come to this show. I never heard Nathan say he's a scammer. I think the first order of things that have to happen is
Nathan has
Jaren
been
has to.
very-
I'm in the middle of talking.
Neil and Arwen, please.
My goodness. I'm sorry, I'm 63 and I get tired of this because all my life I have to
Yeah,
stop
what's
children
silent?
from doing
Sorry.
this.
Did apologise.
Anyway,
Carry
I
on.
don't want
Thank
to
you,
come
Tom.
across that way. I'm just trying to say that if Jaren would apologize to Nathan and panel for calling us scammers, that's the first step for peace. So if Betty wants peace, then that has to happen first because that's all Nathan asked for. That's all.
Okay.
Right? So hang on.
I'm with you.
Hang on. So
You said that's
Flatzoid-
all.
No, that's all on that point. Flatzoid tried to do what Betty is saying, and everyone gave Flatzoid a hard time. And I said, "Good job on you for trying to, be a peacemaker, Flatzoid. See if you can get it done, basically." And then Flatzoid got all these nasty messages from Jeremy. He says, "That's it. I'm done with them." So yeah, we've tried that. That's all for both points.
Understand, but I respect that. I understand why she's saying that, and I told her that whenever it seemed to get personal, I would interject on her behalf on that particular subject.
Fair enough. With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Fortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the thanks button after the fact and all that good stuff. And another massive thank you to today's G+ and Gilded panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!